Hi guys, so today we're going to make a fall floral arrangement in a vase. That is a small glass vase filled with water and flower food, and I've already added some leather leaf, and I spray my foliage with green glow or some sort of leaf shine to give it that nice shiny, healthy look. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but I do. The first thing I'm going to do is add my base of flowers, and you can see that is a white spider mum there. And I'm just cutting it at an angle, and I'm going to put that mum pretty deep in the arrangement because it's going to serve as my base, and it's going to start to form a grid within the vase. I'm just cleaning the stems so that you get a nice smooth insertion of the flower. I oftentimes move my flowers if I don't like them once I put them in. And if you have a nice clean stem, it makes it a lot easier to pull the flower out and put it back in. And here's my second spider mum. I'm doing the same thing. I'm cutting the stems quite short, you can see, because I want them to sit deep in the center of this arrangement. And then I'm just cleaning off all the bumps and extra leaves and things off the stem. It really does help a lot to have nice, clean, smooth stems. And here's the third mum. I used 3 in this arrangement. And there that one is. Now that creates a nice base to start adding other elements in. I clean up as I go. I like a tidy workstation. I don't like to just cut and leave everything. And there you can see I'm twirling it around on my Lazy Susan so you can see. All right, next we're going to select some gladiolas. And this gives me my line in the arrangement. You always want to have something that gives you a line, unless you're doing like a dome arrangement where everything is low. But this is in a nice vase, and so of course I want a vertical line so that the gladiolas are adding that element. And I cut the bottom at an angle, and then I just broke the tip off of the gladiola. The reason I pull the tips off is it encourages the lower blooms to open. I'm doing the same thing to the second one. Now this second one I'm leaving a little bit longer so it'll be taller in the vase. And there I just broke the tip off of that one. And down she goes. I really like the orange element that these glads bring. And it does give a nice, strong vertical line in the arrangement. All right, now this is just some leaves that were on the glads, and I pulled them off earlier and saved them. And I thought, well, that's gonna look nice. It'll add a little bit. To it. So I had 2 of them, so I put them both in. Then you can see I'm famous for moving things around. That's why I try to keep things very clean and smooth, because I'll put something in place and then I'll decide, I don't like it there. Then I'll move it somewhere else. So I've got the 2 verticals there right next to the glads, kind of towards the back of the arrangement. And those are some pretty green carnations that I will be using later. I'm just cleaning them up right now, snip the bottom, and I set them aside to use later. That is baby's breath, and baby's breath I use as a filler. And you can see I'm putting it kind of deep into the center, and I'm going to add the other elements right over the top of it. But it really fills space, fills gaps, and lightens dark areas deep in the arrangement. So you can see I'm really pushing that baby's breath down into the center so that it sits deep in the arrangement. All right, some pink pretty roses. These are such a nice pink. And what I'm doing here is I'm wiring the rose. I'm pushing a 20 gauge stem wire right into the calyx at the bottom of the rose. And then I am twisting the remaining part of the wire gently, carefully around the stem. And what that does is it just gives support to the rose. Rose heads tend to be heavy, and if they don't get enough water, they will droop. And they can do that quickly, like in a day. And you definitely don't want your rose heads drooped over. So I almost always wire my roses so that they stand up straight. I'm just cutting the bottom at an angle, and I'm putting that right down in the arrangement. These are sitting above the mums, but below the glads. So these are like my mid-level focal flowers. A focal flower is something that draws your eye. It's like, that's what you want people to look at. The glads are the line, the mums are your base, baby's breath is your filler, the roses are my focus. So those are front and center. Now I'm going to go ahead and wire this rose. I take most of the leaves off my roses. You don't have to. If they're pretty, leave them on. Sometimes I just have so much going on with the other flowers and other foliages that I just take the rose leaves off. And that's what I'm doing there. I'm wiring it around the stem, cutting it at an angle, finding a spot for it there in the vase. And here's my third rose, removing the foliage, removing the guard petals. Any petals that are bumped and bruised, I just pull off. It doesn't hurt the rose at all. And then I grabbed a wire. So this is a full length stem wire. I use 20 gauge. And what I do is I cut the wire into thirds. So I've got a bunch of them there. I'm just going to pre-cut a bunch of them so I've got them ready to go. And at first I'm trying to cut them all at the same time, but my wire cutters are dull. So I go back and I end up cutting the wires individually. The important thing is to get the right length. And I like to cut mine in thirds, which is like a 3-inch length of wire, 3 to 4 inches. You really don't need much more than that. And there they are, and I'm just setting them aside there at my workstation so they're easy for me to grab. Pushing that wire right into the calyx of the rose. A calyx is the little swollen part just below the bloom. And that's where I press the wire in. I do not push the wire up through the bloom. I just simply put it in that calyx, just ever so gently. And then I wrap the rest of it around the stem of the wire, or around the flower stem. Finding a spot there for that third rose. There, that's pretty. Groupings of 3. To get those roses to open up a little bit more, I just hold it and gently blow into the bloom, and it kind of just opens up the rose a little bit, so it's not such a tight bud, but more of an opened rose. They will open naturally on their own as they sit in out in the room. Okay, so here now I've decided, I pulled out the leaf of the glad, and I've decided to make a loop out of it. So all you do is just bend it on itself, and then I hold the ends, and I'm taping it. There's different ways to hold it together. You can staple it. You can run a little thin piece of floral wire through it. I'm just using some clear waterproof floral tape and taping it around it. You don't see that part at all. It sits down in the vase. You just see the loop stick out. So it doesn't matter what you use to. You can see the tape there. It doesn't matter what you use to connect it as long as it works, because you don't see it. And I'm just tucking it right there on the side. It's a nice designer element that you can use. Makes your arrangement look really upscale. It just elevates it, like gives it a designer touch. All right, so I like the way that's looking so far. And now I'm going to add my carnations in. And what I do initially here is I put one on the left, and then I go and put one on the right towards the front of the arrangement. But you'll see later I do decide to change it, as I often do. I never have a plan when I'm working. I just kind of design as I go. I mean, I have a general plan, but not specific. I don't have, some designers have a very specific recipe that they follow, and I just really don't work that way. I have a general recipe. I know what kind of flowers I want to use and what I'm going for, but I don't have like a specific layout of it. I kind of just decide that as I work. Now you can see I'm putting more baby's breath into the arrangement. I really like baby's breath because it just does so many wonderful things. It's a filler flower. It lightens up dark spaces. You can collar your arrangements by tucking it all around that bottom edge, so it kind of gives a nice finished, edge to your arrangement. All right, so it's very important to keep your water clean. You can see here, some little bits and pieces have fallen down into my vase, so I just lifted the entire arrangement out, and it should be pretty easy to do if you're locking your stems together. You just pull that arrangement out, hold it with one hand, and you can clean out your vase. You don't want any kind of foliage or anything down in that water. It disintegrates and causes bacteria fairly quickly, which will shorten the life of your flowers. And I'm just continuing to add the baby's breath where I think I need it. Baby's breath is called gypsophilium, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as gyp. I just call it baby's breath, which is the common name for it. Some people don't like the way it smells. I like it. I use it all the time. I just think it's a lovely fill flower. It's inexpensive, and it always does the trick. You can dye baby's breath with food coloring to make it different colors. If you don't, it comes white, but you can tint it with different dyes to change it. Now you can see I'm moving that carnation over to the other side, so I'm clustering the two carnations together. It really, when you cluster groupings of flowers, it makes a bigger statement, gives it a bigger impact, and so I decided to cluster them together on one side, and then what I'm doing is I'm adding some orange mums to the other side by the orange glads. I felt like that would give me a nice line of orange. There they are. I cleaned most of the leaves off of that mum, and that's a spray mum. There's like 4 or 5 blooms on the head of that mum. And I'm just tucking it down deep there into the arrangement right next to those glads. And so now you can see all the orange on the one side, and it's a really nice line. I ended up using 5 pink roses. I do like to work in odd numbers, 3, 5, 7. It's just a personal choice for me. As a designer, I think it looks better to work in odd numbers. And there you go. You can see that line of orange there. I think that looks really nice. And then you can also see the cluster of the green carnation. Okay, now I always finish my arrangements with the spray of Crowning Glory. And it's just a sealant. Flowers lose water through their blooms. So Crowning Glory just seals it down so that the flowers stay fresher longer. I give a nice generous spray to the arrangement, and then I let it sit for 20 to 30 minutes to completely dry. And there it is. All finished. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.